Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I am the Superintendent of Oakland Unified School District, Dr. Kyla Johnson-Trammell. We are so excited to have here today our Governor Gavin Newsom, and all our dignitaries who joined us this morning. I would like to give a special shout out to the Carl B. Monk Elementary School community and Principal Denise Burrows for opening up their doors and being so welcoming and gracious to us all, and all of the teachers who allowed us to come and visit the classroom, and the students just for being able to bring such joy to us all this morning. We are here today simply to just implore and model the importance of safety, both mask wearing and getting vaccinated. 2 days ago in Oakland, we successfully opened our doors in 80 of our district schools to over 35,000 students. And it filled me with such joy. As a parent myself, I think I was more excited than my son. My husband wanted to walk my son to school, and he was like, back it up. I'm in 8th grade. Go do you. I'm going to do me. But all the kids were filled with such joy. One of the pre-K teachers in one of our schools said that the first day of school was chaotic wonder, and that so many teachers and students were so happy to be in school. We did so prioritizing safety, thanks to the guidance both from the California Department of Public Health and the Alameda County Public Health Department. They have been wonderful partners throughout this 17, 18-month journey, and we are grateful for their continued support and guidance through this process and through this journey. As many of you know, late yesterday, our Chief Talent Officer and myself announced that in Oakland Unified School District, we will be mandating vaccination or weekly testing to all staff, all contractors, and volunteers that are in all of our campuses. That decision was made to ensure that we are doing our part to keep our schools safe as well as the broader community. We prioritize safety, both physical safety and the socio-emotional safety of our community, and we felt that this was an important step in that direction in tandem with the other measures that we are taking. Again, I am so grateful to our friends and families that you will see here and hear from very soon, from our city, from our state, and from the federal government. We have been working together, and it really lives up to our mission here in Oakland, that it takes a community and a village for our students to thrive. And that's exactly what you are going to hear as you listen to all of the speakers today. At this time, I'd like to introduce the president of the Oakland Education Association, Keith Brown. I have known him for a long time. We taught together, and so with deep respect, I bring him to the mic. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Oakland educators, welcome Governor Gavin Newsom to the Carl Monk campus and to the Oakland Unified School District. All summer, Oakland educators have worked preparing for this moment, the first week of school, and we worked collaboratively with classified staff and administrators, and we worked focused on the safety of our students and families. We made sure that we had safety protocols in place, such as air filtration and ventilation, safety protocols, PPE, and the necessary safety supplies. Now, with this announcement, we have a very important layer of protection for our students in place. I encourage all who can to get vaccinated. Vaccines work, and they keep our students and communities safe. So we are here together because this is a collaborative effort. We are united for our students and community. Now I would like to welcome Alameda County Superintendent L.K. Monroe. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Keith. It is a real honor to be here this morning. As both the superintendent and Mr. Brown said, this is a really critical moment for us. At the Alameda County Office of Education, we have been at the forefront for making sure that our education workforce had access to the vaccine. We were the first site in the nation to host a mobile FEMA unit, and we got to welcome the governor for that momentous occasion as well. So today is really a critical step in ensuring that we get over the finish line. We still have in Alameda County some very persistent areas where we really need to make sure that all residents over the age of 12 are getting vaccinated, and we are currently focused on that. But today's announcement is a key one to making sure that every student is coming back safe, ready to learn. Every staff member is feeling safe and supported. So thank you all for being here today, and we could not be more pleased and see an end in sight to this pandemic, and really Carl Monk is a great example of how families and students are coming back to take advantage of in-person learning. So with that, I have the honor of introducing the mayor of Oakland, who I can say is an authentic and committed partner to education, and she has really been at the forefront of supporting the children of this city and beyond. Libby Schaff.
It is always a good day when Governor Gavin Newsom chooses Oakland to make exciting announcements. And this is truly a show of leadership. A show of leadership not just from our governor, but from our labor leaders. Thank you to the CTA, to the OEA for your leadership in bringing us to this moment. As I was driving here this morning, I was hearing news from Florida about a governor who is literally going to punish educators who are doing what is right for the health of teachers, school staff, and most importantly, our children. And I know this is not a political press conference, but I cannot miss the opportunity to say that if Californians do not participate in the special election coming up, this could be our fate as well. Unspeakable in the state of California. Leadership matters more than ever in this pandemic. Now, I'm proud that Oakland, California just marked a milestone. We have vaccinated our 300,000th Oaklander. But our vaccination rate is still too low. Fully vaccinated Oaklanders are only at 69%. And we know that 2 of the zip codes that have been hit the hardest by COVID are in East Oakland. And that is why today's announcement does not come a moment too soon. I join our fabulous superintendent, Dr. Johnson Trammell. We are not only partners as leaders, but we are actually partners as parents. In fact, our children are in the same class together. As we attended the first day of school, we saw 100% of children and educators wearing these masks, but the masks could not hide their beaming smiles. To see our children reunited with their friends, their beloved teachers, their beloved principals, that is what we are fighting for. This announcement today is going to ensure that those smiles continue and that we never have to be ordered back inside again. Our children will never have to be ordered to stop going to their classrooms. So I just want to commend the leadership of our labor leaders, our school district leaders, our county leaders, and the great governor of the state of California. It is now my pleasure to introduce the leader of the State Board of Education, someone whose scholarship I have admired for more than 2 decades. I've been following you a long time, Linda. And that is Dr. Linda Darling Hammond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a very good start to the school year, not only in Oakland, but across California where schools are opening. We're seeing in Southern California, San Bernardino, Chula Vista, to Northern California as school districts are opening, the same kind of joy that you've heard described here, the same kind of attention to safety and to enabling students to be in school full-time, more than 90% of students coming back in these districts, and that's been made possible by the actions of the governor and the legislature in putting in place all of the fundamental, not only requirements, but resources to be sure that we have the kind of ventilation, the kind of PPE, the kind of supports for hygiene, and also the supports that allowed people to come back in the spring. And 9 out of 10 California districts offered summer school because of the investments that were made last spring in a special session of the legislature, so that we've gotten kids back engaged, attached, enjoying school, making up for that time, and ready to be here all year long, every day. This announcement is critically important for the ongoing safety and ongoing progress that we're making in the state of California to be sure that this is a totally joyful, engaged, and productive school year, and that we encourage people to continue to get vaccinated, to protect their health, and of course to wear their masks. We just heard about the governor of Florida. Just last week, the governor of Arkansas tried to repeal the ban against mask mandates that had been put in place in that state as their hospitals are filling up, and they are seeing the problems that have occurred because they haven't taken the safe steps. This governor and this state have been taking the right steps all along the way. We will be the first state to require vaccination or regular testing for staff. We hope that that encourages families as well to join in this safety mission and in this mission to get school off to a good start and to a continuous start throughout the school year. I'm pleased to have the honor to introduce Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is the representative of the 13th District for 23 years and a personal hero of mine for all of the ways in which she has supported young people, children, and families over those years. Congresswoman.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you, Linda, very much for that introduction. And let me just say to Governor Newsom, to our labor union leaders, our educators, the principal of this wonderful school, to Mayor Schaaf, to everyone here today, thank you. Now, I have had the opportunity in the last few weeks to visit states where the vaccination rates were very low, where there were no mask requirements. And I'm going to tell you, it frightened me, it scared me to death. And so I want to thank you for being here in Oakland, California, of course, in the 13th Congressional District, which I say is always the most enlightened congressional district in the country. And once again today, you're making me very, very proud. There is no denying that we're reaching yet another inflection point in the pandemic with the emergence of the Delta variant. The science shows that the Delta variant is highly transmissible and dangerous for those unvaccinated, including our children, especially our children. It has also been made very clear over the last year that there is no substitute for in-person learning. Our children, especially children from low-income communities and our low-income children, they cannot afford to take steps backwards on their education after the difficult year that we just had, well, now a year and a half. While some states are ignoring this new public health challenge and even banning masks, can you imagine banning masks in schools? California, thank God, is taking the necessary steps to protect our children. In Oakland, we just began opening our doors this week, and I'm so proud of our educators and our principals, our superintendents, for really allowing our children to come to school with safety measures in place. We need clear, responsible, and science-based safety measures that keep our children safe. And again, in Oakland, in the 13th Congressional District, thank you so much for this. Let's be clear. The best safety measure you can take is to get vaccinated. It's safe, it's effective, and it protects yourself and those around you. But in line with the CDC's guidance, masking up, consistent sanitizing, and social distance gives us even more added protection from COVID-19. Our children have endured so much over the last year. They need us to do the right thing and take every single safety precaution necessary to allow for a safe learning environment. It is our responsibility as adults to make their health and safety our top priority. As one of the greatest artists of all times, Marvin Gaye, reminded us, save the children. We must save the children. We know that the health of our children, neighbors, and communities depends on Governor Newsom's continued leadership. Governor Newsom has been a steadfast, and I mean steadfast, leader on behalf of all of Californians, working diligently, day and night to protect people's lives, and yes, their livelihoods, and to ensure that Californians thrive on the other side of this pandemic. I can think of no better person to lead us through this next challenge, and he's already doing this, than Governor Newsom. With that, I'd like to just bring forward and introduce once again to our community the leader of our great state, a friend, and he's a true fighter for all of Californians, Governor Gavin Newsom. And let me just thank you again for being here in the 13th Congressional District.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Not many congresswomen would quote Marvin Gaye, so we appreciate you for that as well. Appreciate all of you for taking the time to be here. Mayor Schaaf, thank you. It's always wonderful to be back in your backyard. To all of the esteemed leaders behind me, thank you for your stewardship. Thank you for your devotion to the cause that unites us, and that's the essential importance we place on in-person instruction and the work that we have done in this state that I would argue is second to no other state in this country to make sure we do that safely and responsibly. This is a state that very proudly was among the first states in the country to mandate mask wearing in the public education system before this school year, before the CDC aligned with that standard, before the Academy of Pediatrics aligned with that strategy, and before the controversies that have subsequently ensued. We followed that up by looking more broadly at ways we can improve our efforts here in the state to keep people safe and the impacts that the community spread, particularly with the Delta, we're having in terms of our capacity to sustainably keep our schools open. By mandating, first state in the country to mandate all health workers receive a vaccination. The state of California, trying to lead by example, also asserted that we need to do more and do better by becoming the first state in the country to require vaccine mandate, or at least verification, and or a testing requirement. We're now following up today to align our school strategy to the state strategy and become the first state in the country to require that all of our staff, not just teachers, credentialed staff, paraeducators, custodial staff, the bus drivers, folks that are critical to supporting the entire school ecosystem, also submit a verification of vaccination and or submit to weekly testing. We think this is the right thing to do, and we think this is a sustainable way to keeping our schools open and to address the number one anxiety that parents like myself have. I have 4 young children, and that is knowing that the schools are doing everything in their power to keep our kids safe, to keep our kids healthy. And that's what we're doing here in the state of California. Now, we're doing that aided by an unprecedented amount of money that we're investing in our public education system, $124 billion investment this year, 123.9 to be exact. We're creating a brand new grade this year, TK for all, be fully implemented over the next few years, but we initiated that this year. We are supporting an effort that's long been promoted in this state, but it's never been achieved. That's after school for all California school children, fully implementing that with a commitment of $5 billion in the next 5 years to advance that cause. We are doing more for the health, not just physical health of our kids, but the mental health of our kids. 0 to 25, $4.3 billion the state is investing to support the screening and services and supports to address the critical issue of mental health for all of our children here in the state of California. $1.5 billion for special needs kids. I can go down a list of abundance. This state has never been more resourced in terms of supporting the academic and social-emotional needs of our children. And so today we feel is a responsible step in the direction to continue to maintain that stewardship and that focus on getting to where we all want to go, and that's extinguishing this virus once and for all. While we're proud of the fact that California has among the highest vaccination rates in America, now 77.5% of all eligible Californians have received at least one dose, it's not good enough. We have more work to do. And so maintain that there's no substitute for vaccinations except those non-pharmaceutical interventions we have all come to know well, and that's continued testing, contact tracing, which we're partnering with counties like Alameda County and districts like this, and continuing to do what we can to encourage people to wear face coverings, particularly in settings indoors. And so that will be the charge. That's the approach we're taking here in California. It's science-based. It's based upon argument, evidence. It's based upon data, and it's based upon the vexing challenge that we all face now in this state and our nation, for that matter, around the world, of trying to address this latest mutation, the Delta mutation in our state. So that's the announcement today. I want to thank all our partners from Linda and her team at the state. I want to thank the union partners. Mr. Brown, thank you for your efforts, to the county, the city superintendents, to the mayor. We believe this will be well received. Not everybody will be overwhelmed by this, but we think it will be well received because it's the right thing to do, to keep our most precious resource healthy and safe, our children here in the state. So with that, we'll just jump right in. I know you're eager to ask questions, and of course all of us are here to help support and answer and respond.
Hi, this is Ali Tadion with EdSource. And I was going to ask, it was only a few weeks ago when the requirement for state employees was announced. What happened between then and now to warrant this new requirement? Don't you think you're cutting it a little close to the start of school?
I think we're doing the right thing, and I'm very grateful that the state took leadership by requiring all state employees, about 246,000 state employees. We appreciate what was followed up after that announcement. So many cities, including Oakland, followed suit all up and down the state of California, aligning with those state requirements. And then we saw businesses do the same. You saw some of the nation's largest private companies, from Google, Facebook, Uber, Lyft, and Disney, follow suit. We have been working with our partners in our education system, 1,050 plus school districts. We're trying to support the needs of 6.1 million public school kids. And we have been engaged to address the concerns and anxiety around reopening our schools. I was down in San Bernardino last week meeting with leaders there as we reopened that school. A school, by the way, that didn't reopen last year. They were an exception. But it was an example of a school that did everything in their power, a district rather, to prepare for this year. But also we talked about vaccines. We had an opportunity to talk beyond masks, and it initiated a series of conversations that led to this moment in this first-in-the-nation announcement we're making today.
Jill Tucker from the San Francisco Chronicle. In some districts where they've already adopted this, including San Francisco and Oakland last night, there's been some pushback from parents and teachers saying it doesn't go far enough because it's a choice between the vaccine or getting tested once a week. Did you consider making this a more restrictive mandate that would have limited exemptions and require more teachers and educators and staff in schools to get vaccinated?
We think this will do exactly what it is intended to do, and that's to encourage people to get vaccinated. It's what's happened at the state level. It's what happened in terms of the inspiration for the private sector to follow suit. But I've said this from day one, going back 18 months. We're open argument, interested in evidence. We don't stand still. We maintain a flexible mindset about what's happening on the ground, the epidemiology, the nature of these variants. And by the way, Delta variant's not the only variant that we're monitoring. We have over a dozen variants and mutations that we have been battling against over the course of the last many months here in the state of California. Mindful there'll be more on the horizon. And on the consequence of that, we always maintain a willingness to consider next steps. But this is, we believe, the next appropriate step. It's at scale. We appreciate Oakland. Thank you for moving last night. We appreciate Long Beach. We appreciate LA, San Francisco. But there are 1,000+ other schools and districts in the state, or rather districts in the state, that we want to encourage along. And we believe that this will begin a process of significantly increasing vaccination rates across the spectrum and across the state.
Hi, Victoria Colliver with Politico. So, Governor, can you tell us more about how this will be enforced? Will teachers be fired if they fail to comply?
Well, it's the same way all the rules and regulations within the school system are enforced. We have an ed code, and there's progressive sanctions, and we don't distinguish this versus all the other rules and requirements. And so that rule book, that playbook is well defined in the state, and we're not concerned about that. We think we have enlightened leaders, people that recognize what's at stake, their own health, the health and safety of the children that they're serving. That's their mission, that's our mandate, and we're confident that we'll see compliance.
Hi, Governor. Sophia Bolag here from the Sacramento Bee. I understand that the announcement today only applies to teachers and staff, but if the vaccine does receive FDA approval, would you support requiring students to get vaccinated in order to attend school?
This is the announcement we're making today. We're the first to do a mask requirement in our public ed schools, among the first states, certainly among the first to move in this direction. We'll consider all options in the future. Forgive the redundancy of that response. I've maintained that for 18 months on the basis of the nature and change. There's nothing static about this virus. The one thing we have been from day one is humbled by it. And as a consequence of that, with that humility comes the responsibility to be vigilant. And vigilance demands considerations and reconsiderations. And as a consequence, we'll consider that if necessary, but we believe this is a meaningful first step.
Governor Laura Anthony with ABC 7 San Francisco. 2 days ago, we met underneath the overpass in Berkeley, and I asked specifically about mandates for vaccines for teachers, and you said that you would leave that to the individual districts, the 1,000+, and it was bargainable. I know you're not calling this a mandate, first of all. Secondly, what changed?
Well, there are a lot of things we consider that I don't preview as we're considering them. And forgive me, process, trying to work to develop trust among our partners. We've been discussing this for some time. We want to develop a cadence of engagement and consideration. You got me cleaning up a homeless encampment in Berkeley, and that was the best response at the moment. I will assure you there's many things we're considering broadly in this state to keep people safe and protected, and I anticipate subsequent announcements over the course of weeks and over the course of the next few months in order to advance our efforts to extinguish this virus once and for all. But we engaged in robust conversations over the weekend. Over the course of the last few days, we were able to land very confidently yesterday, and today we are formalizing this announcement.
Good morning, Governor. I'm Melissa Colorado with NBC Bay Area News. More of a localized question here to Oakland. We've had a surge in homicides, armed robberies. I'm sure you heard what happened to former Senator Barbara Boxer recently. And just yesterday, the president of the Oakland Chinatown Chamber of Commerce said he sent a letter to your office, and he's asking you to declare a state of emergency here in Oakland and to deploy CHP officers to help OPD, and he's also asking for more state investigators. So my question to you is, Are you going to deploy CHP officers here to Oakland and declare a state of emergency?
Well, we have 5 task forces, active task forces with the CHP, Department of Justice, and the county and local authorities. The mayor and I just had a conversation about a more formal request she has made of my office, and I told her she can count on that request being received. We're going to do more to help support not only those existing task forces, retail theft task forces, a regional vehicle theft task force, major crimes task force. We'll continue to provide other resources beyond personnel and CHP. We have canine support, we have investigative support, but we have also done a number of things that I don't know have gotten the attention they deserve. One does not need to declare a state of emergency to assert the acuity of a crisis that needs to be addressed head on, and that's exactly what we did in the budget this year. $200 million for evidence-based street outreach through a program called CalVIP. Last year, we invested $9 million. This year, we're putting $200 million in grants to support efforts, evidence-based efforts to address the issue of crime and violence in our streets. We did something very significant, particularly to the Asian community, and this is something, point of personal pride for me, having grown up in San Francisco with one of the largest Asian populations in America and having had the privilege of being its mayor. Also, having been very, very aggressive in my condemnation of the racialized speech of the previous administration and the ongoing issues of division and divisiveness in this country, particularly the anti-Asian rhetoric that we continue to hear. We put $165 million up specifically for grants to address the issue of Asian hate in this state. That's unprecedented in California's history. We mean business on that. So we're going to hold folks accountable, continue to partner with local government. I'm grateful for the mayor's leadership and her assertiveness in terms of demanding more support from the state, which she will receive. But we haven't waited around. Those dollars are now available. They were passed with urgency in the budget. And by the way, they're supplemented with an additional, and this is important, $50 million for security grants for cultural institutions. Those dollars are also available today to secure sites physically and or with human resources to provide more support for cultural institutions that also have been subject to hate. And so all of those supports are new, all those supports are available, and additional law enforcement support will be forthcoming into Oakland.
Governor Kathy Novak from KCBS Radio, and I'm told I'm the last question. A follow-up to what Jill asked in terms of possible next steps for removing the testing option for teachers and just requiring vaccinations. Do you have a threshold in mind for how many school staff would need to be vaccinated before you remove that testing option?
Well, I want to give this a chance. We're just announcing this seconds ago. So let's give this an opportunity to work. Give me at least 24 hours, maybe more than that, a few weeks, and then we'll consider subsequent steps. Look, the vast majority, Mr. Brown can make this point himself, overwhelming majority of our teachers have been vaccinated. Overwhelming majority. Not everybody. But we need to get the other staff, support staff, is vaccinated as well with some urgency. And we'll see how that process is. We put a timeline. We want to give people time. I mean, we're just opening up the schools. I was talking to the principal. I mean, this place looks spectacular. I love the first week of school. But, yeah, she's got her hands full just taking care of those little ones inside and keeping the bathrooms clean and operational. And now we're requiring this new testing verification, and she's now wondering how she sets up the testing protocols, and we need to give her a little bit of space, a little bit of support. We have Safe Schools teams and technical assistant teams that Linda and Brooks and the school board are providing. We had remarkable support from Congresswoman Lee with the federal dollars that came in. $27 billion came in the state to help advance our efforts in the ventilation and other things that Mr. Brown was referencing. But we'll monitor this closely. We'll see how successful this effort is, against first in the nation, and consider if the FDA does approve next steps moving beyond the emergency youth authorization to formal authorization, where we land on that. I continue to remind people, in closing, the importance, the imperative, if we want to end this pandemic and disease, we can do it in a month. That's a choice. This disease is now a choice. The one thing that can end this pandemic once and for all is available in abundance to everybody that wants it, regardless of your ability to pay, regardless of your immigration status. It's available today. And that's a vaccine. It will not only save your lives, but allow us to sustainably keep our kids back in in-person instruction, keep our economy moving, support our small businesses. I don't know that there's a more damn patriotic thing you can do on behalf of not only yourself, your community, but your fellow Americans than getting vaccinated. Encourage everybody to take advantage of that, what I would argue, responsibility, not just opportunity, that is available in abundance here in our state. Thank you all very much for the privilege of your time, and thank you, everybody, for helping get us to where we are today with this name. Thank you.